Hi folks, it's Andy. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. We have got plenty of questions for you today. We're going to jump to them in just a moment. Before we do though, don't forget YouTube magic, like, share, subscribe, use the word Kendo in a comment down below. What a great Kendo channel. This is the best Kendo video I've ever seen. Something like that, and we're guaranteed to increase the Kendo population if you do that, okay? It is guaranteed. Google basically told me that. When I emailed them, I said, if I tell all of my viewers to write comments using the word Kendo underneath my videos, is it certain that we'll get an extra 250 million people start Kendo per second if we do that? And they didn't reply to me, so I'm taking that as a yes. So it's scientifically tested. Use the word Kendo down below in a comment. More importantly than that though, if you do like the videos that I put out, if you like these Kendo rants, or if you like the feedback videos that I do, analysis videos that I do, tip of the week, instructional content, all of it's free, completely free, no subscriptions, no memberships, nothing of that nature. All you have to do is shop at KendoStar, best Kendo equipment website in the galaxy. I would say that because I own the place, but everyone agrees with me. It's the best, all right? Win-win. Everyone's a winner, baby, that's the truth. As the famous, I think it was Takeda Shingen said before the Battle of Sekigahara. I think he said something like that. Pretty sure that's true. Right, let's get to the questions. Question on Tsubazeriai. Tsubazeriai, I'm just going to correct your spelling. I'm sure it's a typo, because we've got a few here differently. Subazeriai. Okay, so question on the Subazeriai separation Andy kept mentioning. So this is from the feedback video that I did yesterday. All right, and I mentioned about how we've got the way in which Subazeriai is adjudicated now going forward is you come to Tsubazeriai, you've got like one breath, 3 to 5 seconds, let's say. They say about 3 seconds, but in reality it's a bit more. And if there's no chance for technique, you mutually separate. And that's a Shinai rule, but it's something that you should have as standard practice, especially, and not especially, but in like gradings as well. All right, in gradings as well. And that's what I mentioned in the video. Okay. So my point on that was that. So let's have a look at the question. It says, I thought the rules were if it's longer than a breath, 3 seconds or so, both opponents must separate. If it's shorter and your opponent tries to back away, do you need to as well? Maybe this is a Shinsa thing, which then makes sense. Regardless if it's not a Shinsa, does the fist need to physically touch to count for the Subazeriai rule to put into play? Okay, 2 great questions. So first question there, all right? All right? Try and make sure my jacket doesn't interact with my microphone. Just move it along here, I think, just to excuse me, folks, while I deal with this technical issue. So the first one is, okay, so you come to Subazeriai, all right? You both are looking for a chance to hit. That's the first thing you should do, all right? First thing you should do, come to Subazeriai, try to find the chance to strike, okay? If there isn't one, within about 3 seconds, starts to look, truncated, then both of you separate, okay? To the far distance, all right? If one separates and the other doesn't, so this side is going to stay still, this one separates by itself, this is the penalty for this side, all right? If this one starts to separate and this one chases, a penalty for this side, okay? So the question is here is, all right, but what if it hasn't been 3 seconds and they tried to move back? Can I keep chasing them? It's a grey area and it's based on the judgment of the Shimpan, but once a separation has begun, so once they get like to here, you can't really chase them, all right? You should have done a waza by now. Well, the best thing to do is they start to get to there, you can do a waza at that point. That's perfectly acceptable, all right? Perfectly acceptable. So that's the way to think about it. But if they start to separate, then you should separate as well. You don't want to start sticking to them, all right? Best not to do that too much, all right? In terms of does the fist need to physically touch to count for Tsubazeriai. The fist never has to touch for it to be Tsubazeriai, because Tsubazeriai is not the fist against fist. It's Tsuba against Tsuba, all right? So once the Tsuba come together, and I wouldn't say that you necessarily have to physically touch strictly, but once you come to that Tsubazeriai distance, what could be reasonably deemed Tsubazeriai distance by the Shimpan, then yeah, it comes into effect. All right. At the end of the day, the Shimpan's main job is to uphold fairness, okay, and to prevent time wasting or prevent one side trying to game rules to get an unfair advantage. All right, so they're watching the whole thing. Okay. Next one, how to align oneself's mi and ki better. Okay, I feel I have very strong kendo, then those match, but this seems a part that's very hard to switch on. Sometimes you have this state, but when not trying to chase it disturbs the mind even more. Any basic tips or thoughts? Okay, so mi is the body. Okay, mi. This one. And ki. All right, welcome to Andy's Japanese classes. Okay, so we have a couple of kendo terms that we use. Migamae, yeah, and kigamae. Okay, we use these terms in kendo a lot, don't we? Okay. And this is the physical kamae of the body. Okay, not just holding the shinai in front, but good footwork, good posture, being in a position ready to strike. And kigamae is having that same position in your spirit. And what you're asking is, how do you align those into one? Obviously, there's no quick answer. One is through repeated practice, so that you're able to make snap decisions instinctively. But more importantly, and if I was to give you one tip how to do this that's easy to put into practice immediately, it's to focus more on the readiness of your left leg. Okay? Ensure that your left leg is able to initiate a strike at any moment. Okay? That will automatically set your concentration and your physical kamae, or your physical readiness into alignment. Okay, it won't be perfect, but I think that's the key. All right, have your left leg ready to launch you into a strike at any moment. Okay, it means your footwork has to be small, has to be accurate. You can't be walking around. You need to be making very short, sharp, calculated steps with your left leg ready to launch you immediately at any moment. Okay, and I think that will lock those two together. Fisher Sensei, what's the most relevant tips for Nidan and Sandan gradings in Suburi training? Thank you very much. Luis, I'll let your name in there, sorry. Suburi. Two things, similar to what I just said. Pushing from your left leg and bringing it up quickly behind you. For both Nidan, Sandan, Yondan, Godan, Rokudan, Nanodan, probably Hachidan. I think that's for all grades, but definitely will help you. Think about pushing forward from the left leg, It's all about concentrating on your lower body, not about how well you swing the shinai. That's important as well. Push from the left and draw up with the left. All right. If you watch the Suburi video that I did, and practice all three of those types of Suburi in the way that I described them, that's definitely going to help. Secondly, and I think this is particularly important for the Nidan Sandan level, but all levels as well, but it's something that I think people struggle with a lot. I'm going to go a bit controversial here. I'd like you to think about Suburi in two different ways. All right, let's say there's two types of Suburi. I do think like this, right? I do think this is the case. There's two types of Suburi, okay? And essentially, One is to perfect your form, all right? To perfect your form. So it has to be correct. Push from the left leg, draw up the left leg back quickly, swing the shinai correctly, good tenuchi, all that sort of stuff. Because it's about setting your body or training your muscle memory to do things in a correct way. Very important. That should be the majority of Suburi that you probably do. But this is something that earlier in the year when we did the seminar in Manchester with Yuki Sensei and Mani Sensei, we kind of looked at Suburi as well. Now, Yuki Sensei really helped me understand something about Suburi. And it's not just Suburi, but you specifically asked about Suburi. She said at the seminar, and I know this is true because I know on a personal level, but every morning at like whatever it is, 5:30 or 5 in the morning, she goes to a local park and she does 500 Suburi. Okay, she does 500 Suburi every day. Okay, if you follow her on Instagram, you'll see she often posts it. Okay, and I know it's true. She is there every day because my kids at the school that she's a teacher at, and at that same time they're up in the morning, they're running around the park, so they see her. Now, one of the interesting things she said about this 500 Suburi she did, and we did it at the seminar on the Sunday morning of the seminar. She said that she didn't manage to do it that morning, so we would do it all together. All right, and we all did it together. And I've done this a couple of times at seminars that I've taught at now as well, because I think it's a really interesting thing. And we do it in my dojo once a month, right? Because I don't think it's for the majority of your Suburi. But she said that the point of this Suburi is not like the normal Suburi. The point of the Suburi is just to swing the Shinai, or we do it with the Bokudo in our club, because we do it once a month. We do a special, we just do kata, but we do the 500 Suburi before we do kata. But anyway, it doesn't matter if it's Shinai or Bokudo. But what's important is the number, okay? Rather than stressing over perfect form, all right? You just have to swing the Shinai. Swing the Shinai 500 times, okay? And it's like 5 types of Suburi, 100 times each, all right? And it doesn't have to be perfect. Just swing the Shinai. Just swing the Shinai, all right? And it's what the point of it is, and it really is noticeable, is I think lots of people around the Nidan Sandan level, they're not properly swinging the Shinai when they do Kendo. All right, lots of right hand coming in, lots of big movements like this. The Shinai is not really acting as a extension to their body, so they're not able to naturally swing it swiftly and sharply and accurately. Yeah, it's a bit clumsy. Yeah, because they're just not that used to swinging the Shinai. All right. Now, when I say not used to, you can do Kendo for 10 years and not be used to swinging the Shinai. All right. Because to get used to swinging the Shinai, you have to swing it tens and tens of, or probably hundreds of thousands of times. All right. And if you do Kendo once a week for 10 years, that's not enough. All right. So, I just think it's a really interesting thing, and I think it really works. So, maybe every now and again, it doesn't have to be 500. You can just do 100 or 200 or 300, whatever. But it could just be Zenshin Kote, just forward and back men. But not trying too hard, not focusing too much on your footwork and stuff like that, but just swing men, san, shi, go, rok, shich, hach, ku. Just nice and relaxed, nice and simple. Just get your body just swinging the Shinai. So that it becomes second nature. Whenever you hold the Shinai, you can just swing it freely, I think it's a really interesting training method. I've incorporated it into my dojo, and I do think it works. But you have to have that mental separation between Suburi for improving your form and then Suburi for improving your ability to swing the Shinai, all right? But I definitely think that's a big step for people doing Nidan and Sandan. One is form and 2 is numbers. You need to swing the Shinai a lot so that you get used to doing it. All right. So you can swing it nice and naturally. Hello, Fish Sensei. I lost many ippon, especially in Debana Kote attempts, because I'm told my Kote strikes don't hit hard enough. What do you advise I do to improve the impact? Yeah, this is a good question. I think lots of people struggle with it. The answer is very, very simple, but it's easy to say, difficult to do. Your Kote strikes lack impact because your Fumikomi is weak. All right. Fumikomi is... It serves several purposes, but the main purposes that we use it for is, one, to cover distance quickly, but two, if done correctly, generated from the lower body, you know, initiating the hips as we launch ourselves forward, and kind of, how can I say, there's a slight drop in your body weight at the moment of impact. All right. Like this, right? And that drop in your body weight transfers to the tip of your Shinai. And that's why the very strong players can hit very sharp, very hard, very strong Kote strikes or men strikes, right? And it goes, like, massive noise. And it doesn't like, it doesn't like break your arm, all right? Now, I've had the pleasure of having All Japan champion level players strike my Kote as they would normally strike it. And I won't say that it's not painful in any sense whatsoever, but it's not like the dull, I think it just broke my arm type of pain, right? You know you've been hit, all right? But it's, it's sharp. And it's brilliant stuff, right? And it's the way that they combine their tenuchi with the weight distribution through their Fumikomi, which transfers their body weight to the tip of the Shinai at the moment of impact. All right. So you need to study that. All right. About how to use your lower body to make your Kote strikes. It's not just your Kote strikes. I'm sure if your Kote strikes are weak, your men strikes are probably weak as well. All right. And it'll be because your Fumikomi isn't quite doing its job. All right. So I'm sure that's what it is. Hi, Sensei. Unfortunately, after an MRI scan for my left ankle and Achilles, I've been referred to a physiotherapist and instructed to take a 3-month break from Kendo. Just when things in my Kendo were starting to make sense and I was seeing good results in my Keiko. During my break, I still want to make some time at home to perform Kendo exercises and drills. So when I do return, I haven't lost a lot of my Kendo, but also not to force my recovery time or overload my left ankle or Achilles. What are your recommendations for essential daily Kendo exercises to focus on whilst I'm recovering? Okay, some people replied to this, and the first one and the big one is the best answer is Mitori Geiko. Watch Kendo every day and burn the image into your brain of the type of Kendo you want to do, and watch it. Okay. 2, you can do Suburi while sat down. Yeah, you can do Suburi while sat down. And if you can do Suriashi, even like just, for Suburi, then practice Suriashi. But if not, don't put any pressure on your ankle, all right? But 100%, I would be doing that. And here's a controversial one. Some people might not like me saying this, but you should still go to the dojo. You should still go to the dojo. I would, if it was me, I would still go to the dojo. I'd still change into my dogi and hakama. And if all I could do was sit in a chair and do Suburi, I would sit in a chair and do Suburi. All right? But I would still involve myself in going to the dojo. So I think that's an essential part of Kendo practice as well. It's not just being by yourself. All right? I think, and you're going to get to do Mitori Geiko there as well. Still going to benefit from any teachings that are given. All right? When my daughter was a kid and first started Kendo, one of her dojo mates, I think I've told this story on the show a few times. One of her dojo mates hurt herself. She broke her ankle at Kendo. She tripped on her hakama and she fell over and she I think she broke her ankle. Not like smashed it up, but she broke her ankle. And she was like 11 at the time, right? My daughter was like 7 or 8. And the following week, she turned up to the dojo and she had a cast on her leg. And she had a dogi and hakama on, and she sat in a chair and did Suburi. And or she got it was a dojo, right? So they had an Uchikomi dai, like, you know, like the hitting dummy, or she lowered the height of that and she just practiced hitting that. She did that for like 3 months, like 3 times a week. She was at every single keiko until she could join again. But she was there at every single keiko. So, yeah. And I think some people might not like me saying that. Like, I'm not trying to sort of pressure you to practice when you're injured, of course. That would be ridiculous. But so don't misinterpret it as that. I'm just saying that, you know, I'd keep yourself involved. I think it could be good for you, good for your recovery, good for your mentality, and good for your dojo community as well. Okay, dear Sensei, this one's a bit loud. Some people say we should kiai as loudly as possible, be the loudest in the room, if that makes sense. Being loud can be intimidating. There's an 8th dan sensei who recently visited the UK. An 8th dan sensei recently visited the UK, said we should refrain from an all-out kiai because you then have to breathe in before doing anything else. All you need is a kiai engaging the diaphragm rather than just the lungs. Makes sense. That's why we don't kiai in Isokuito no Mae. Yeah. I've kiai'd 3 bogu, but you've ignored me. Your comments on this would be greatly appreciated. All right. I understand what you're saying about the sensei saying that. But for me, and for what I've been doing a lot of research, obviously, into like higher level kendo, the kendo that I aspire to, and you know, a lot of stuff about like the 8th dan exam, for example, because, you know, it's like it's on the doorstep for me. So I've been doing a lot of research into that, and almost every like grading panelist for the 8th dan exam so far that I've sort of looked into their teachings and how they advise people to present themselves at the 8th dan exam, say the first the first thing should be the correct chakson deho, and then the second thing should be the powerful hase that, you know, that has presence. Now, I think there's a line to be drawn between what's over the top and what is, you know, like a fully spirited hase kiai, whilst retaining dignity or quality. Yeah. But for me, I'm more of the, it should be big, bold. That's what I did in my last Dan exam, and that's what I currently plan to do in my next one. Because that is exactly why you don't want to be doing your ya and shouting and stuff when you get to the isokuito, because that's when you don't want to be like yeah and stuff like this. For me, yeah. Then I'll go in, I'm breathing as I go in. But, you know, I don't think, I know what you're saying about the kind of like toned down, maybe that's just my lack of understanding at this point, and it could well be, all right. But I don't know, what do they do in the 8th Dan championships? Have a look at that. Have a look at what they do in the 8th Dan gradings. The guys that pass. Have a look at those things, see what they look like. And I think it depends on the individual, of course. There's an element of what suits your kendo style as well, I expect. I don't think there's definitely an absolute correct answer on this. I think there's different ways of... I think there's probably just different schools of thought on it, if I'm honest. Next one. Hello, Sensei. I hope you and the family are well. Yep, very well, thanks. Is Fumikomi important when performing a strike? Asking for someone who has issues with their right foot and can't stomp hard. Out of curiosity, do Shodan fighters do Fumikomi with their left foot? Yes, Fumikomi is important, which is why we have it and teach it. I explained earlier that it serves a practical purpose as well. It's much harder to deliver a proper sharp strike without Fumikomi, which tends to be why you can, of course, make the ippon without Fumikomi, but it tends to be easier to reach the criteria on waza that are judged less strictly on like tsuyosa to sae, the power and sharpness, like kinds of oju waza, because they're considered special waza, like genmyo na waza it's called. So waza like men suriage men aigote, you're not going to do aigote men without Fumikomi. It's not going to work. But suriage men you can do without Fumikomi potentially. You can do, I argue, to be honest, it's better not to do Fumikomi on like men nukido or men kaishido. But if you've got issues with your foot, then yeah, obviously you're going to have to figure out how to deal with that. Are the issues exacerbated by doing correct Fumikomi? Or is it made worse because maybe your Fumikomi needs work? That's something you need to look at yourself. I can't comment on that. But yeah, in general, you need to be able to do Fumikomi. But yeah, not everybody can. So in that case, yeah, you have to study about Kendo with Suriashi, but it's a much harder path to travel. In terms of Shodan players, yes, they do. If you're doing left Shodan, generally they have the left foot in front and they do Fumikomi with the left foot. Yeah, that's correct. Next one. Hello, Sensei. I hope you and your family are well. Can you give guidance on crossing feet moving backwards after a strike or to escape from close range after a failed strike attempt? My assumption would be it's not good to cross feet and simply walk backwards. Yeah, it's not. In general, you shouldn't do it. Now, we have Ayumiashi in Kendo, which is crossing footwork. And there are cases where you might want to do that, all right? For example, you get to Tsubazeriai, you need to separate. You can use Ayumiashi to quickly separate, okay, mutually. That's one thing you can do. Or if you're at very far distance, you can use Ayumiashi to close the distance. Sometimes we use it in some waza. Men kaishido, men nukido. Hit, use Ayumiashi, to move after hitting. You can do, all right? Otherwise, best not to. Best not to, okay? Better to use the okuriashi, right? It's much more effective and efficient type of footwork for Kendo, okay? Is okuriashi, all right? And like, especially like if you hit the like hikiwaza, man, like this, and then you do the ayumiashi, it's not great. It's not great. You ain't gonna respond well. If they're gonna jump, if they're gonna come after you, which they often do, you ain't gonna be able to respond, all right? So yeah, as much as possible, okuriashi, left foot ready to strike, okay? Next one. Hello, it's me again. I'm in the market for a new Boga bag. I have a nice Kamuri Boga bag with the zips, but the zips are starting to give out. Being a portly Westerner, my don't had it just about fit in. I'm curious about the size of some of the Boga bags you sell. Any chance of a cheeky video comparison for size with larger door? Thanks. I'll look into that. We'll see if we can do something like that. The Kamuri is a pretty narrow bag. There's no two ways about it. It's a pretty narrow bag. So is our compact backpack style bag. But you get the regular Boston style bag that'll fit a larger door in it, and of course the Kenpro series, they can fit fit a larger door in them as well. Though I appreciate they're a bit more expensive. And of course, I think we've got the horse end boga bags on our website too. They're massive. They're massive. Again, a bit expensive, but they're very traditional and they're super nice. They're super nice. I'm really like chomping at the bit to get one myself. But like I don't have a good reason to get one because I've already got like 3 boga bags. But it's probably not going to stop me because I really like it. My Miyuki, my wife, she's got one, a Kempro one, not Kempro one, a horse end one. I have the Kempro one. I love that as well. It's super practical because it's a backpack. But Miyuki has the horse end one, which is like the tote style bag. It's massive and but it's really it's pretty practical as well. Like it fits in the car nice and easily. It's easy to carry. It's easy to put the boga in and out, and it looks really nice. So they're all ones that are worth having a look at. Hi, since I originally noticed one of my kohai lays out their boga before training in a way different to what I was taught and what I taught them. Instead of laying both kote with thumbs together, pointing to the right, which is what I'm familiar with, they had the 2 kote pointing in opposite directions, one left and one right. They said they were told about it by a higher grade sensei at a seminar, so I'm unsure whether to correct them or not. Is this something you've encountered before? Yeah, I've seen it once or twice before. I've even seen like with the kote pointing in a different way as well, like pointing straight ahead instead of to the left or right, like straight ahead. I've seen that as well in Japan. Like it can be like there's the Zen. It's like lots of things in Kendo, right? There's the Zen Kenden way, the All Japan Kendo Federation way, and then some dojos have their own like style or thing. Yeah, I'll tell you, in my dojo, for example, like our Reiho is a little bit different to what lots of other dojos do. Now, I don't think the Zen Kenden detail what exact order of Reiho you should do in their book, thinking about it. Mine is all, you know, like when you do the seiretsu and everybody lines up and stuff like that, and you do like the, you know, shisotarashite, mokuso and all that sort of stuff. Like, I was told by one of the Zenkennen senseis that was sent here a few years ago that they'd rather people not use the term mokuso because apparently it's got religious connotations. So they'd rather us use the word seizai instead. And it's not the same seizai as sitting down. It means to sit quietly. It's different kanji. So in my dojo, like I think most dojos tend to have some kind of like seiretsu, chakuza, what is it, like shisotarashite, sit up straight. Then often they'll say mokuso, and then they'll do like sensei or sensei gata nidei, shomen nidei, all that sort of stuff. But in my dojo, we don't really do all that. We just do seiretsu, chakuza. We do seiza for the meditation instead of mokuso, and we just after yame, I'll like clap after like 15 seconds or something to stop the seiza, and then we just say day, and we just all do day once, and that's it, and then we get on with keiko. But that's just how we do it in my dojo. So anyway, that's a roundabout way of saying that, like, there's lots of different ways of doing some different things. You know, there's the Zen Kennen way, and then there's some individual ways. So the however, like that sort of Reiho stuff, it's not actually written in the Zen Kennen book, as far as I'm aware. But at least I don't think it is. My like even in here. This is a Japanese version. I don't think it's written in here either. There is a chapter on day, of course, but it's not like doesn't have the. It's more about the physical aspects of how to do. But anyway, I digress. The point that I'm really making here is that there is a page on how you should place the stuff, and it says here the shinai is generally placed to the left with the tsuba level with the knee and parallel with the body. 2, kote are placed to the diagonal front of the right knee with the himo on the floor and the fists pointing away from the body. All right, which could mean, you know, like I say, I've heard ones where they point it straight, which you could technically say that's pointing away from the body as well. But if you look at the picture that's given, it's put in that direction. All right. So as far as the Kenden is concerned, because this is the official All Japan Kendo Federation publication, that is the sort of way in which they're presenting it as correct. All right. So for me, that's how I would do it. And if I wanted to follow the All Japan Kendo Federation method, which I generally do, then that's what I would call correct. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are dojos somewhere where they put them like that, like you've described. I wouldn't say it's wrong, but what I would say is that like if they're a member of your dojo, then I would say that like everyone in the dojo should probably do it the same way. All right. So it's not that way is wrong and the other way is correct. Do you know what I'm saying? So, but you should probably all do it the same way. If that makes sense. Next one. Hello. In a recent seminar, Fujiwara Takao Sensei showed us that we have to point to the ceiling with our Shinai, but most of the time we see the tip going back. Can you give us more information? Thanks. Yeah, I mean, all right. Okay, so this is the one that comes up a lot as well. All right, so what you're talking about is when you do the hurikaburi, when you swing the Shinai overhead, right? I can't really, I don't have enough space here, but basically the tip of the Shinai should point upwards to the ceiling at about 45 degrees. And the idea of that is, right, is that essentially opening this space in your hand and making this shape with your wrist is not optimal. It's not ideal. All right. So you should have the image of up this way and down this way. All right. And that's obviously, again, that I'm sure that's what's written in here as well. And so, yeah, that's that. However, what I would say that in practice, yeah, it's a guideline. It's an image. All right. You should have that in mind. Yeah. But what you should also do is your Suburi should be natural and it should be relaxed and it should be effective. All right. So yeah, you'll often, and you know, especially as you start to do, you know, repeated strikes, you might see, you know, even higher level senseis or something slightly deviate from that. All right. It doesn't mean that they're suddenly wrong. Yeah. It's just like, that's obviously the image. Yeah, if that makes sense. Okay. Greetings, Fish Sensei. This scene occurred last month during the Latin American Kendo Championships in Chile. Chile. Is it Chile? I'm from the northwest of England and we always have called it Chile. So sorry if I mispronounced that, folks. As a referee, could you give us your opinion on what happened and what measures would be appropriate? And do you believe that with Kendo becoming an Olympic sport, this type of situation could become more frequent? Well, Kendo's not becoming an Olympic sport to my knowledge. If someone's got information about Kendo becoming an Olympic sport, perhaps you could let me in on that, but I don't think it is. All right, I'm not going to show the video on the channel because I don't want to give it more sort of publicity than it needs, because I don't think that it's constructive. I'll describe what happens, all right? A very common scene occurs where one player attacks the other and the Shinai gets caught on the Kendogi. I think it's on the Kendogi of their partner, all right? They go to ask to stop the Shinai and the partner aggressively turns this way and basically snaps the Shinai in half, like properly breaks the Shinai, all right? It's very unsightly. It's very unsightly, all right? But I don't want to put spotlight on the individuals involved, because what I'll say first of all is I've watched that clip because I know it went around, all right? I think the action was inappropriate, but I also don't think that the player that did it necessarily did it from like a malicious place, right? It doesn't excuse it necessarily, but I'd have a hard time. Now, I don't know the players involved. I'll preface that. I do not know the players involved. I'd have a hard time, and I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt in thinking that, you know, they saw that was an opportunity to destroy someone else's equipment. All right. I'd like to think that isn't what happened, and I'm sure it's not. All right. I'm sure what actually happened was that in the back and forth of the Shinai, the particular player's blood was up. Yeah. They're a little bit too into it, right? As high level players often have to be very tuned in, but there's a fine line, isn't there, right? Before you kind of go over and beyond where you know, what's reasonable, but sometimes that line can be blurred in the moment when things get very heated, all right? And maybe there's a lot on the line, all right? Of course, don't know the broader context of that either, but I'm sure that's what it was, all right? So malicious, no, I would like to give them the benefit of the doubt that that wasn't a malicious act, but I will say that it's fair to say it was a bit irresponsible, okay? And I'd like to think that the person themselves, I'm sure they don't watch this, but I'd like to think that the person themselves would agree. All right. If I'd done that, and I'm perfectly capable of doing that. I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody, right? Then I'd like to think that I would look back on that and think that was an irresponsible act of mine. All right. Now, how do we manage that as a shimpan? Okay. How do we manage that as a shimpan? We manage it under Article 1 of the regulations, all right? Article 1, okay? The purpose of the regulations is to get Shiaisha to compete fairly in Shiai of the International Kendo Federation in accordance with the principles of the sword and to properly referee the Shiai without prejudice, all right? And then further, it can be sort of adjudicated under Article 15, not 15, Chapter 3, Section 1, Prohibited Acts, all right? So Article 17, really, and it's Part 7, right? This is Article 17 is what counts as handsucker. Use of non-regulation equipment, tripping or sweeping the legs, unfairly shoving or pushing the opponent out of the Shiai jaw guy or stepping out of the Shiai jaw while the match is in play, letting go of the Shinai, requesting for a suspension without justifiable reason. And number 7, which is the one that I believe applies here, committing other acts that violate the regulations. All right? Because for me, although I don't think it was done with malicious intent, as I said, I think it was a bit irresponsible. And I do think I think it violates Article 1 of participating in accordance with the principles of the sword. So for me, I would, if I was the shimpan in that situation, then I would argue for handsucker against the offending player, the player that did the breakage of the Shinai. Okay, for me, that would be my judgment on it, and that's my justification for it. Yeah. So that's that, I guess. About Kendo becoming an Olympic, so I don't think I have no expectation or anything of Kendo becoming an Olympic sport. I don't want it to. I don't think it will. I say I don't want it to, but I don't strongly think that because I just don't think it's likely at all. If hypothetically it became an Olympic sport, would this situation become more frequent? It could, I suppose. Depends on the referees. It depends on if the regulations stay the same, and the referee. If you were talking about refereeing at the Olympic Games, then you would have to have obviously a very, very highly trained set of referees, and I would like to think that they would make the same call as I've just described. So I don't think it should follow that it would become more, more frequent. Okay, more frequent. Would it never happen? Of course it might, but it's happened without the Olympics. So, Okay, last one. Hi, Fish Sensei. I hope you and yours are well. I have a Shodan grading at the ripe old age of 47 in 2 weeks. Although I have, of course, done quite a few gradings related to Q grades, I do suffer from tending to overcomplicate the grading process and performance. I'm trying to concentrate on complete delivery of waza and keep it as simple as possible. Is there any other advice you could please offer to Shodan, or am I on the right track? Thank you again. Always shop at KendoStar. Please love... P.S. I love my Vanguard Sentinel Boga and KendoStar Oval Grip Shinai. Thank you very much. Okay, you got it right. You know, don't overcomplicate it. Just try to deliver your waza and keep it simple. Make sure you make your strikes with Kikentai no Ichi. And the biggest thing for Shodan for me is don't just say ya, step in and hit men and repeat that for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 120 seconds, whatever you get given. All right, don't do that. That's what lots of people do at Shodan because that's how they manage to get through Ikkyu. All right, let's start to make it look like Kendo now. All right, and let's start to present your waza to the jury. All right, I don't like that word jury. To the examiners. All right, to the panel is the right word. So don't overcomplicate it. Like you say. Make your strikes with Fumikomi. Don't just hit men. You should be able to hit Kote by now. All right? Maybe even have practiced some audio. You've been doing Kendo for more than a year now, maybe 2 years, or maybe even more. Yeah, so you should be able to demonstrate, you know, what you've learned up to now. Okay? And you'll be fine. And don't forget the kata. Learn the kata and don't make a mistake. And you'll be fine. Okay? And there we go. Thank you very much for joining me today. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, shop at KendoStar, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.